The story begins with the fact that it was the year 3157, according to the Alliance calendar. The events took place in the combat zone Sector 52. Some girl said that the news agency of the secret Star Grizzly Academy, Empire, is here. This girl's name is Rita. She is now live broadcasting the evaluation of graduates of mainland academies and universities this year. As in previous years, if there are graduates who are able to successfully complete the 9th level of difficulty, then all graduates of this state will have +1 point to the rating in their resume. At that moment, Rita asked if anyone could pass the 9th difficulty level today. Some girl stood with chopsticks in her mouth and also hoped to hear something. Suddenly, a man approached the girl and said that he did not expect to meet her here. The guy started lighting her cigarettes, saying that she was their best hope. The girl took the thing out of her mouth and said that it was a simple chocolate bar. She added that she spent half the night and tried her best, but she was only able to pass the 7th level. The guy was very surprised that even Sister Bai is only at the 7th level, which means this year's grades will be hopeless. The girl replied that she agreed with him. After that, she asked where that same person was, but the guy didn't understand who she was talking about. Suddenly a boy came up to them and said, if suddenly that person wants to come, then his goal should be the 9th level of difficulty. As it turned out, this person was Manhwa Academy graduate Lin, and he was a very mysterious guy. People started pointing fingers at him, saying that this kid, named Lin, had come to challenge Set Canyon. 4 years ago, this freshman genius quickly gained strength. He was born and surpassed all the geniuses of the same level. Subsequently, he broke various records and shocked the entire Secret Star Empire. He never revealed his identity, and always used the code name Lin to show people that he was the most powerful. Bai looked at the timer and was surprised that it was only 20 minutes. The guy who supported her said that he was going to see the girl break the legendary Academy record of 30 years. Suddenly the numbers started to decrease and everyone was very surprised. The guy was at a loss why this was happening so quickly. As it turned out, that legendary guy passed the test, and now the students of the Secret Star Empire will be given +1 level. The guys were surprised how he could be so strong, because this is the canyon of the 9th level set. Bai looked at this and wondered if he could actually do it. Meanwhile, there was some work going on at Manhwa Academy's maintenance agency. Lin, known as the fastest hands of the Wild West, in Manhwa Academy. Some guy said that in order to fully see his repair process, you need to measure the speed 10 times using a holographic image. The girls he told this to asked if the guy knew that last night during the test, all the students looked discouraged. The guy replied, although Lin is strong, his record may be broken in the future. In addition, there is no combination lock, and Lin may not be able to break it. The girls replied that this lock had not been broken for more than 300 years, but it was still broken. Lin, who was repairing some tool, said that the girls could take it, to which they were very surprised. Lao Zhang asked this guy why he did it so quickly. Didn't he see that he was trying to pick up girls? One of the girls said that the complete repair of two virtual helmets took at least 15 minutes, which seems to be a new department record. She added that this guy's service skills are incredible, and everyone will need his help. He replied that one day he wanted to join the maintenance department of the 3 main departments. After which the girls began to leave, and thanked the guy for his help. When the girls left, the guy told Lao Zhang to wake up, because the girl he likes will never get her. Lao Zhang replied that Lin Chuan is a good brother, but why did he just offend him like that? The guy added that these are just fantasies, because even he, despite his repair skills, can only become a mechanic due to problems with his body. A little later, the guy was walking around the city and thought that Lao Zhang was going to a training camp in the city of Leho. Suddenly, he saw an Imperial escort airship in the sky. This thing will only be sent when there is an emergency battle. The Eastern continent has not fought for more than 20 years, and for some reason it was sent away so suddenly. But the guy decided not to think about it and go back to the dorm, and go to bed. Suddenly he saw a chest in front of him, and did not understand what it was. As he came closer, he realized that this was some kind of metacode of the heart. At that moment the guy realized that this was the legendary 99th Centroid combination lock. They say that one of the problems that academies cannot solve is this very castle, which not a single person has ever encountered. But since this happened, the guy decided to open it to everyone. After some time, this lock was unlocked. A bright light appeared among the streets, which was visible directly from the sky. Later in the evening the guy lay on the bed, and thought that the explosion was caused by this stone ball. But what is it? He remembered that he was graduating tomorrow, but was still unsure about his future. After all these thoughts, the guy turned over and decided that he needed to sleep. Later at night, his body began to transform, and some blue stripes appeared. Sometime later in the morning the guy woke up from the sharp ringing of the alarm clock. He fell to the ground and realized that his hand wouldn't even let go on the last day of school. He watched her trying to endure the pain and wondered if the life of a corporate slave was really the same. Suddenly he looked at his chest and was very surprised. The guy went to the mirror but didn't see anything like that and thought that he just imagined it. Looking at his hand in the mirror, he saw that his scar had healed. Coming out of the restroom, he thought that something was wrong here. Approaching some tool, he realized that something was wrong with this stone ball. He stood on some kind of path that showed information, and could not understand how this was possible. The guy realized that his Centroid compatibility difficulties had been corrected. He began to be very happy, because he would finally be able to get into the training camp and not be a corporate slave. Besides all this, he can't hide the fact that he is a train. The guy realized that he could get into any training camp, because he had the best grades at the academy. Suddenly his attention was drawn to a TV that said that the police had found out that the source of the terrorist attack was in the west of the continent in Iceblood County. In addition, an enemy group has broken into the city. If any suspicious individuals are noticed, you need to report it to the hotline. The guy thought that even Professor Xiandao, who was in charge of the academy's curriculum, thought that this was only possible in theory. Our hero realized that this ball must keep a big secret. In addition, the police and armed forces have made so much noise that they are probably looking for this stone ball. The guy decided that he urgently needed to leave Nanluo if it was not too late. Already on the street, the guy realized that there were more patrolmen on the roads than usual. Having come to his senses, he saw that people were not being allowed into the station. He overheard a conversation that no one can leave Nanluo without permission, and this is an order from the police and military. The guy thought that many more problems awaited him. Suddenly someone paid attention to him. One of the police officers called our hero and told him to take off his cap and show his documents. Therefore, let him tell where he is going and who he is. Our hero took off his cap and said that he was a graduate of Nanluo Academy, and he also had to get to the training camp as soon as possible. Saying all this, the guy thought to himself that he was being pinned down, and now he needed to do something. Suddenly someone grabbed him by the shoulder and asked which camp he was going to. As it turned out, standing behind him was Xian Gao. He is a professor at Nanluo Academy. After some time, the guy was traveling on a train and was told over the loudspeaker that the virtual platform of the United Academy was closing in half an hour. Our hero thought that he needed to repay the debt to the professor, because without him nothing would have happened. Entering the lobby, Dad met with the professor and said that he had a solution to the hypothesis of a metacode lock with 36 layers. Coming out of the lobby, the guy realized that if it weren't for the professor, he would definitely have been caught, and he is sure that the professor would like the decisions he made to thank him. The professor also put on his helmet and thought to himself how many more surprises our hero had prepared. After some time, the guy arrived in the southern part of Nanluo. Some guy at the reception said that their academy specializes in repairs, and our hero was lucky because he barely reached the standard in the camp. In doing so, reaching the third level of Centroid Force just before release. Our hero was told to change into his training camp uniform, and then he would officially become a member of the White Arrow Harbor training camp. The guy opened a suitcase containing some items. He thought that he had finally created his own Alliance Centroid Combat Network connectors. Suddenly, a girl and a guy walked past them, and our hero drew attention to them, wondering if it was Mu Shenye. The instructor said she was a reserve guard student, but she was quite capable. He also added that the guy next to her is Might Sang. He is a genius whose strength has reached the 7th level. He could have become an instructor, but he became the girl's bodyguard. The guy thought that he had been on the same virtual platform of the Alliance Academy many times with this girl. Perhaps she even recognized him. After some time, the guy could not believe that he could connect to the Centroid Combat Network. Having entered the network, he read the rules and realized that this is what the combat network of the Centroid is like. The system showed that the data had been transferred, and a new character was being created. He was told that the character's quest was complete, and was welcomed into the battle network. After this, the guy could see the system and his characteristics in front of him. In addition, the system reported that our hero can receive a reward from the virtual platform of the Alliance Academy. They need to go to the elite training camp. The guy thought that he couldn't even stay in Naglo. Therefore, he asked the system to send him to the Centroid city. After moving, the guy found himself in some kind of crowd of people. I saw some building in front of me, and thought that it was cheaper here than in other places, and I could do a little training. As expected, this is the training ground of the Centroid city. In reality, basic weapons can only contain 2 rings of energy in one projectile. Therefore, our hero wondered if he could achieve 3 rings. Once he fired, you'd be surprised that 5 rings formed. After which the system showed that his abilities increased by 50%. The guy was still perplexed as to how he suddenly got 5 rings. He wondered if it was a weapon and wanted to try something else. Even after he took another weapon, 5 rings still formed. It seems that the problem is not in weapons. On the virtual platform Academy of the Alliance, his weapon skills have long since reached 5 rings. At this moment, he thought that the entrance exam would be tomorrow, so he needed to practice his weapon skill. Suddenly the guy received a call and left the lobby. At this moment he could not understand what was happening to him. As it turned out, everything has disappeared and the guy still doesn't know much about this mysterious stone ball. Suddenly he heard police car sirens on the street. Our hero thought that he urgently needed to see what happened. Coming out into the street, he was shocked by how many police cars there were, and began to think what happened. Suddenly, someone turned to him and said that they had discounts on breakfast, and would our hero want to order something from them. Our hero asked the local sellers what happened, and they answered that several families had discovered traces of the White Arrow Fish King. Therefore, a dispute broke out between the families over who would receive the king. Well, even if there were traces of him there, he needs to be caught, because with their skills, they won't be able to catch even his shadow. Our hero thought that he spoke to Liliami safer than other places. If this had happened in Nanluo, then the police had already begun to act a long time ago. Suddenly another police car drove past him, and it seemed there was blood on its headlights. The guy quickly turned away and realized that, fortunately, no one noticed him. He couldn't stay here. He started to leave and thought that no matter what happens, the best thing to do is to focus on the entrance exams. A little later he was told that the rules of the exam were very simple, and that he needed to highlight 3 goals. There are 3 attempts to achieve the best result. The same guy told him that he didn't pick up his group number yesterday, so he'll be in the 5th, and let him stay calm. Our hero stood and thought that it seems the 5th group is far from the best team. After which it was announced that the 5th group should get in line. At that moment he saw that same girl. The guy thought that it was not surprising that no one wanted to be in the 5th group. The presenter told the 5th team to come in. He added that Mu Shang would be the first, and let her take aim. The girl took the pistol in her hand, and began to aim at the target. She was told that she had 3 chances to hit the red zone, in the center of the target. The Mu school is not famous for its use of weapons, but their abilities in hand-to-hand combat allow them to break through the front. Moreover, It is not very capable of heavy artillery. The girl noticed the rays shining on her and started shooting. Everyone who was in the hall stood with very surprised faces. The girl's accuracy against a moving target is 61% she needs for rings to wield a weapon. The girl was surprised, because her accuracy is only 61%. The bodyguard said that her previous score was only 40. Our hero thought that this is what was expected from the sign of a great family. Moreover, she can even do what she does not specialize in. She cannot be underestimated. After her bodyguard also shot at targets, his results were 65%. Our hero thought that among all the university graduates, those who can create 5 rings can be counted on the fingers of one hand. After that, the guy stood ready and was allowed to start shooting. Suddenly, after the shot, 5 rings were created in him, and he realized that he urgently needed to cancel it. The guy hoped that none of those present saw anything. The presenter asked if our hero was okay. The guy replied that he was a little worried, and asked the instructor to take a break. The girl's assistant told her that our hero can control 5 rings, because in time he reduced the energy level to 3. Looking at his biography, they did not see anything unusual, and thought the more ordinary he is, the more problems he has. The girl told her bodyguard that our hero is very strong, and he must have many secrets. She also added that he probably has many secrets, and she is very interested in them. The instructor said that our hero has a mark relative to a moving target of 35% weapon mastery, is 3 rings. The guy replied that he was very worried, and was glad that he was able to hide his ability. Suddenly, that girl and her bodyguard said that the guy had done a great job, and our hero wondered if they had noticed how he created 5 rings. The girl said that her name was Mu Shan, and she was from Duncarton Academy. The guy began to greet her and introduced himself, wondering if she really hadn't noticed anything. The girl's bodyguard also greeted our hero, and asked if he wouldn't mind exchanging experiences, in order to learn something from each other. The guy began to make excuses, saying that he had urgent matters. He thought to himself that he needed to get away from them as quickly as possible, because if he was forced to show his true strength, he would be revealed. As soon as the guy started to leave, the bodyguard told the girl that our hero had a familiar back. After nectars of time, the guy found himself at the training ground of the Centroid Combat Force, where his training improves his skills in real life. When our hero becomes stronger, he also knows more about the stone ball, but for now he needs to hide it. Suddenly he received a message that there was an urgent mission he needed to get to the lobby as soon as possible. At that moment the guy was very surprised, and thought that this couldn't be true. Coming to some conference, the instructor said that they were all on time. He added that many destructions have already occurred this month, alone, and let them keep their guards up. The instructor also added that our hero is in a group with Mu Shan, so they need to go to the harbor and take a post. The guy interrupted the instructor and said that he was very weak and would not be a burden for them. But in fact, our hero was afraid to reveal his abilities. Other participants also complained that our hero had only reached the 3rd level, and was already in a team with these 2. Therefore, it will be very dangerous for him to take it off. The girl told our hero that they are the same, so there will be no problems for them if they are in the same group. But our hero said that problems might still arise, so he'll probably leave. Suddenly the girl's bodyguard stood in front, and asked if he really didn't want them to learn from each other. Once said that he did not expect that he would be assigned to patrol the harbor. Besides, he saw the air police heading there, and did not hear that several people died there. The girl added that judging by their abilities, they will be able to protect our hero. Meanwhile, the police were still heading to the scene. People were walking in some area, and near them stood a huge monument to some person. Some hooligans driving around in a car started harassing the girls. Passing by, our hero thought that this was really not a safe place. Mu Shan shouted for these degenerates to stop doing this. Our hero asked why Lady Muni's family provided her with an elite bodyguard, otherwise she might have set him on those idiots. The guy replied that he couldn't do this for him, because he was weak, and had bad grades. Walking past some hangars, the guys were talking about whether there were any leads in the case of the destruction this month. One policeman replied that this does not apply to recruits, and the less you know, the more soundly you sleep. But he added that these crimes were committed by some elite unit. If this becomes known to the public, then the members of the White Arrow's harbor will panic. Suddenly our hero looked to the side, and saw the very monument that began to blind him. Meanwhile, everyone began to scream, because they saw the king of the White Arrow in the fish. A lot of police gathered around this. Our hero thought it was good that it was just a false alarm. Suddenly something strange happened, and the guy didn't understand what it was. He felt that this burning sensation for some reason calmed him very much. Suddenly the girl noticed something. She said that she felt something was wrong, but even the secret family technique did not help to see anything. Meanwhile, some group of people with weapons were in their area looking for the guys. As it turned out, the unusual floral aroma began to dissipate and our hero did not understand what was happening. A group of people found the guys and said that reserve students were not allowed to enter here. The girl herself was at a loss, because even her secret family technology does not help to see anything. Because this is explained by the fact that the enemy is not susceptible to the aura. Well, this is the most burning sensation on the forehead. Is this really that same aura? Suddenly the instructor called our hero to him. And going further, he said that having encountered such an incident on his first guard duty, this was the best experience that our hero could only get. Suddenly the guys stopped and saw something strange. They saw the body of people who were no longer alive. Our region, because for them it was too much for recruits. Suddenly he saw the instructor and another person talking behind him. The girl asked if they were really blood elves. Meanwhile, the instructor and one of those people agreed not to say a word about this to anyone. As it turns out, on the western continent they feed on fresh blood, just like on Earth. Plus they fuck people a lot of times. The instructor told the guys to follow Officer Zhu, and not stand here. Our hero was glad that he could leave. It was very dangerous here, and he needed to leave here as soon as possible. The instructor thought to himself that the infamous tragedy at White Arrow Harbor was happening again. Sitting in the patrol car, our hero asked if one of the crimes was not committed by blood elves. The guy replied that this crime cannot be hidden. Their empire strictly monitors such cases. The girl asked if our hero really didn't know that for several decades the blood elf had been in Havana with white arrows. From this news the guy realized that the horror stories about the harbor make arrows turned out to be not a lie. The girl's bodyguard added that in the legends she said that it was in the blood, that they staged a hunt for the people of the harbor several decades ago. The cases were never solved. The girl said that every 50 years the elves gather for a bloody drinking binge, and every time, they fail to find evidence. Our hero thought that white arrows are not safe in Havana, so we need to find a way to avoid working at these sites. The girl said that our hero is a coward, and why did he even go to the training camp? After his story that he was weak, and it would be dangerous for him, Mu Shen realized that he was hopeless. Being at home, the guy was glad that they didn't plunge into blood, and the guys didn't find out about his abilities. In addition, the stone ball has changed him, although he does not know if it has any obvious benefit. Well, for now we need to keep it a secret. The guy looked at his watch, and realized that in the Centroid Combat Network, he could train 10 times faster than in the real world. But leveling up is not a priority now. The most important thing is to protect yourself. Therefore, the guy must become stronger, otherwise he will not survive here. Some snake in a suit was sitting in his office, and realized that the blood elves had already arrived. He was curious which family did this since they made such a mess in the first place. Some animal sat and said that these blood elves were having a huge holiday, and he was really envious. Plus, the people in White Arrow Harbor looked delicious. That same snake said that the elves ruined their plans, so it's better to reschedule these plans, because when the special guards arrive, things will only get worse. After consulting, they decided that they should have done this a long time ago, and it would be an explosion. The creature said that he had chosen a couple of obedient, juicy people that they could enjoy very well. And besides, the preparations are almost complete, so they need to quickly start the operation and get ready for the show. Meanwhile, in Havana, white arrows, evil energy began to occur in the room. After half a month in this harbor, the girl did not understand why she needed to be imported with a bunch of documents. She grabbed her hair and screamed that it was pissing her off. Our hero said that working on sites is dangerous. But they have already been working here for half a month, and the period will soon expire. Her bodyguard said that the girl needed to stay at her post for a couple more days, because a special squad would come, and they would be able to leave. Here our hero felt familiar feelings, and it seems the pain has returned. He looked out the window, and saw a car with blood on the headlights. At that moment the guy realized that something was wrong here. He looked at all the bodyguards that were sent by the new family. They were all at least at the 7th level of strength. Our region realized that it is not easy to work as a security guard, but for girls from rich families everything is different. Suddenly the guy felt a feeling of heaviness, as if something was about to happen. Meanwhile, the girl was sitting at the table, and said that she was tired of everything, and wanted to get out of here. Suddenly she looked at our hero, and asked why he was so scared. They were at the security post. The girl added, even if all the harbor bandits appeared here at the same time, they would not be able to reach their door. Suddenly the guy turned blue, and began to notice something. The girl who was behind also noticed something was wrong, and tried to find out everything from the guy. At that moment the guy extended his hand, and replied that something had happened in the morgue. He started running and shouted to the employees to get everyone to bed quickly. The guys stood in bewilderment and did not understand what was happening to our heroes. Suddenly he grabbed the girl and shouted for everyone to lie down. At that moment, some kind of big explosion occurred. All the windows were broken and pieces of the room began to fly. Our hero himself was at a loss as to what was happening now. The girl replied that it was a flesh bomb, so you need to wear a helmet, because the bloody mist is poisonous. They wore helmets that could filter out food. Well, the guys were still at a loss as to how the security post could be bombed. Sitting under the window, they suddenly heard shots on the street. Some figures whose faces were not visible began to approach them. Our hero's entire team and employees stood on alert, and shouted that they would shoot. Some monster made a speech that they were all dirt, and that wouldn't stop them. At this moment, the guys began to shoot blue lasers from their weapons. But this monster didn't care, they just laughed at the fact that there were still girls here. Our movie hero, everyone should contact the special squad, and immediately request reinforcements. The girl said that it was the voice of Sister Gia, who was at the reception, and was going to get married at the end of the year. One of the employees said that now they are not in the best situation, and should try to escape. Our hero replied that they were just on post, and should not act rashly. At that moment, the girl asked what if they wanted to destroy everyone at the post. But the scared guy replied that everything would be fine. One of the employees started walking up the stairs, and said that the monsters were on the 2nd floor. Therefore, he leaves the girl to our hero. The guy told her not to make sudden movements, because these creatures are not like people. At that moment, the monster broke through the door, and shouted that he could smell meat. He grabbed the girl by the hand, and shouted that they urgently needed to run away from here. Only the employee remained in the room along with the monster, which he was very afraid of, but dared to fight with it. This guy stood up and took his shield in his hands. But there was more of a monster, and they walked right into his back. The guy tried to fight off all their bullets, and hoped that he could survive. At that moment, our hero and girl realized that these creatures really wanted to destroy them. The girl added that our hero would help their employee, who was fighting the monster, survive. At this time, he thought that it seemed that he could not win this battle with physical strength alone. The monster began to swing his weapon, and said that the employee's equipment was rather weak. The girl looked at all this, and urgently asked our hero to help. Suddenly she looked to the side, and couldn't understand where he had gone. At this moment, surprise appeared on the monsters' faces. One of them began to wander around the room and ask who was here, and let him show himself. The employee said that our hero probably went to fight with those two armed guys. The girl understood everything and also took a shield and a sword to help the employee resist the huge alligator. After this, the huge monster became even more angry and said that he would tear them to shreds. Suddenly, those same two monsters came and said that these two people were from the Mu family. They are the sworn enemies of their plans. At that moment, a very blinding flash occurred in the place of the huge alligator. He turned into a wolf and said that the Mu family is the most sworn enemy of the black wolf race, and they need to be destroyed. He also added that he would feed them to his ancestors, whom the girl's family destroyed 2,000 years ago. The girl replied that 2,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Mu family created this military technique in the battle against the wolf race. That is why she will defeat the monster today, because this is the mission for which she was born. Hearing about the glowing dagger technique, the wolf replied that the girl was quite strong. Well, answer. He asked how strong her companion is and now he's checking it out. The girl was horrified at this moment, because she remembered our hero. Suddenly he arrived at the scene, and said that he was fine, and was lucky to destroy one of them. The wolf realized that it seemed the information was incorrect. In addition to the two runts, there was another one related to the ant from the Mu family. The wolf ordered all his subordinates to keep an eye on the girl, while he plays with our heroes. But the guy replied that he was not from her family and, moreover, he was a stranger. Therefore, he hopes that the wolf simply does not see him. Our hero thought that this was the first time he would destroy someone, and he felt disgusting. But the wolf was already enraged and began to run towards the guys. They say that he will destroy all the guards at the post, including him. Our hero began to run, thinking that this wolf was really big and very dangerous. The girl shouted that the guy should not try to block his attack, because there were very many black rolls. At this moment, the big wolf launched his attack, hoping that he would destroy our hero. Turning around, the guy was shocked. He saw a very fast attack that he couldn't dodge. But he realized that now he would have to risk his life, and turned around to meet his attack. Our hero began to run towards the wolf, and held out his weapon. He looked at him and wondered where he got the reflective blade from. The wolf thought that only a worthy opponent could use the reflective blade. He also noticed that when our hero misses, he immediately retreats, which is a good reaction. The wolf, tired, asked how our hero dares to use the reflective blade in the battle of life and death. He got very angry and shouted that now he would definitely destroy the guy. They stood opposite each other and fought, trying to maintain an advantageous position. The wolf thought that our hero's strength was below the centroid stage of the 4th level. Can he really use all his strength and fight him on equal terms? The big wolf thought that this was impossible. After some time of fighting, the guys stood on the sides, and the wolf didn't know what to do next. He grabbed his head and invited his subordinates to destroy the guy together. The girl stood with the employee and said that it seemed our hero was in danger. Well, the employee replied that the guy cannot lose, because he resembles one very strong person. As it turned out, our hero once defeated employees in the virtual platform of the Union Academy, but this does not in any way affect what is happening now. The girl added that now they are in a real fight, and the guy could be writing his life. Our hero remembered when your teacher told him that it was impossible to survive such a fight, but now the words seem funny to him. Meanwhile, several squads of police were driving on the street. The wolves and monsters shouted that the guy urgently needed to be destroyed. He stood still and watched as monsters surrounded him, and realized that he was most likely finished. The huge wolf jumped up and swung his gun for the winning blow. But at that moment the guy just smiled and said that he was waiting for them. With a deft movement he was able to push the weapon away from him. Suddenly he took something out of his pocket. This thing began to send out some waves. The monsters stood in bewilderment and were surprised what kind of weapon it was. As it turned out, this is a good thing that our hero has been working on for the last 2 weeks. If he didn't have it, he would now be in trouble. The guy looked at the battlefield, and all the monsters were lying on the floor. He thought that today was a very strange day, because he almost died at the security post. The girl and her bodyguard looked at the guy, and thought that he was very strong. The guy began to change clothes, approached his partner, and asked if everything was in order. The girl replied that our hero was actually very strong, and they really misunderstood him then. The girl's bodyguard thought that our hero was just a train, but he would also like to turn out to be a train. If that were the case, he would have to hide in White Arrow's Havana. Suddenly, something started to happen to the guy, and he started to fall. The guys caught him and asked what happened to him. At this moment, our hero thanked the girl for destroying these bandits, and he took several blows to protect them. He also added that he would have to delegate their work in the training camp to the guys. The guys started asking what nonsense our hero was talking about, and let him wake up. But they have no choice and they must cover their tracks after the guy. Meanwhile, some girl began to fly in the sky. She landed in an area, and said that the enemy had now been detected, and the target had been confirmed. She looked at a house, and aimed her bow, saying that automatic shooting was very good. At that moment, she shot arrows that penetrated directly into the monster's body. The guys at the security post realized that this was superior equipment, and help arrived. Everyone who was in the house began to shout that they were finally saved. Some time later, our hero was in the hospital, and the instructor said that he did not know whether his team would be lucky or not. He also added that in any case the guy was very good, and said the white arrow suits him very well. After that, he began to leave, saying that our hero should rest, and let him return, and then he would have a lot more to do. On the way out, he noticed the same girl. He smiled and said that he was leaving now, and let the girl have a good chat with our heroes. Entering the room, she was surprised that the guy was all wrapped up, but he replied that the girl herself would try to withstand so many blows. After that, he asked if the girl had really come here to make fun of him. But the girl replied that she had come to the hospital to use a special medicine that was brought from the Western continent, and it would help him recover. She also added that many guards who were on duty lost their lives at their posts. Well, the guy replied that they survived, and the girl is one of Jan's guards, the lady of the Mu family. Therefore, she still has to go through a lot of incidents in the future. He also said that the girl should not forget to thank him, because even in a dangerous situation, despite the loss of strength, he stood up for her, and took the blow. He asked the girl to make a tragic and emotional report, maybe he would get a mark of his training data. The hero wanted the story to match what Lam Ilun wrote. The girl became quiet and our hero thought that she thereby wanted to teach him a lesson. But she gave him a glass of water, and said that the guy didn't look like someone who was seriously injured. She added that the guy should rest after drinking, and promised that he would be discharged soon. Meanwhile, the Mu family servant thought that the girl was dating that same guy. But the bodyguard replied to the girl that he had not thought about that at all, and there was nothing between our heroes and the girl. But the service replied that usually she does not even serve tea to show her respect. And then suddenly under his usual water. The bodyguard replied that they were in the same group, and during this time, they became quite close. There is already a girl doing it, because our hero saved her life. Hearing these words, the servant realized that things were very bad, because the bodyguard always blushed when he lied, but now he did not blush. Servant of the Mu family despite these statements, he still thought that the guys were dating, and asked Lady Su not to tell anyone about this. But she stood and asked if, in their days, it was really so bad to allow a little romance into her life. She asked why he should keep all this a secret, because even no one from noble families worries about this. The servant replied that the lady had not thought about it, but the Mu family must support and strictly adhere to the traditions of their ancestors. But remember your past experience. The lady agreed with these words. The servant replied that then everything is fine. The lady began to leave and said that the servant should respect his boundaries, unlike the useless old men of the Mu family, let him do whatever he likes. Finally, she added that our hero is really lucky, so we need to get him in shape later. Meanwhile, our hero was in the hospital and remembered that he had recently sold a shooting radar, and for this he was given a dagger made from the bones of the Fish King. If he completes more assignments, he can earn more money. Suddenly the same lady came to his room. The guy got out of bed and asked what she was doing here. The girl replied that our hero was quite good, and asked how he realized who she was. The guy replied that the girl told him quite a lot about her. The lady understood everything and wanted to leave, telling our hero that she had some business with him after he was removed from office. Our hero was shocked how she just left, and what business she had with him. Suddenly the door to the ward began to open again, and he wondered why he was so popular today. As it turned out, a servant of the Mu family came to him. He came to make a secret deal. He held out a card containing 30,000 gold coins. Our hero was perplexed why the girl's family was trying to help him, if she herself saved them all. The servant said that this is payment for breaking up. If our hero comes with a girl in a relationship, then this money will be his. At this moment the guy did not understand anything at all. Well, I thought that this was a very advantageous offer, and decided to agree. He said that nothing could work out for them in the future. The guy added that he would definitely stay away from the girl, and after finishing the training camp, they would never meet again. The servant was shocked how our hero could quickly agree, and wondered if there was something wrong here. Our hero said that the servant could tell the girl himself about this deal, so that she would understand how much of a scumbag he is. Well, the servant added that the guy should just behave as usual, but later stop communicating with the girl. Moreover, if our hero breaks his promise, then the servant will not be so polite. The guy replied that it was correct that the servant did not fully trust him. After all, he can sign an agreement if the servant needs it. But in response to this servant, I simply told the guy to forget about it, and everything is fine. Leaving the ward, our hero shouted for the servant to kill himself. He lay in the ward and thought that in one day, he had received as much as 30,000 gold coins, and imagined where he would go on vacation. But after thinking for a while, he decided to purchase a Centroid equipment with a star rating after he passed the 9th stage of Centroid power. Suddenly the girl ran into the ward and screamed and asked if the guy really received that much money as payment for the breakup. But our hero replied that they had never met. The girl said that they would go right away and explain the whole situation, but our hero turned away and closed the door because he didn't want to say goodbye to his money. After some time, the guy was holding some kind of notebook in his hands and realized that this technology was created by a madman of the continent who survived 2,000 years ago. If he learns this technique in the early stages, his strength will increase incredibly. However, this technology has a big drawback. This is that it can only contain a formula for the first steps of the Centroid force. Well, even though his strength will increase exponentially, it will take our hero much longer to change his technique later. He thought that in his current state, the best choice would be to learn the Sentinel Wind technique, after which he will pass the 9th stage of strength. After thinking about all this, he decided that he would do it anyway. Firstly, the guy needed to understand how difficult it is to start learning this technique. At that moment, his heart began to beat faster, and he began to feel something. Our hero was surprised whether he had really completed the initial stage of studying the clock wind technique. He thought, should they be so fast? The thought occurred to him that if they were somehow connected with the stone ball. It was very mysterious to the guy, because he never had the opportunity to study it properly. Therefore, we need to find out what this thing is. Our hero thought that if he used a special potion while practicing the clock wind technique, the speed of his training could increase by 20 to 30%. But this thing is very expensive. Each cardiovascular bladder in the potion costs 200 gold coins. The guy calculated that with low performance, he would be able to break through to the 9th central stage of strength in a year, and it would cost 36,000 gold coins. The next day, events took place at the Centroid City training ground. The guy stood and thought that in 6 months, he would be able to break the 1,000-year-old record. but the price he would have to pay was a bottle of vascular potion a day. He put his hand to his face and realized that he would now have to save money. He started walking somewhere and decided to check if there was a discount on the cardiovascular body. Suddenly he turned around and saw that someone had called him. A red-haired guy stood behind him and waved at him. He thought that our hero was a certain Plum. But he turned away and said that this guy was just the wrong person. But that red-haired guy said that he wouldn't tell anyone and wanted to ask for one. Our hero turned his head and was at a loss as to what this guy was talking about. After some time, the guys were sitting in private room number 303. Our hero asked what was the matter and suggested starting the show. The red-haired guy said, "Why don't our players just agree with this, because he will keep everything secret?" Well, our hero replied that the guy, no matter what, just misspoke. If he has something he needs to remember, then let him just say about it. The red-haired guy asked why our hero is so heartless. After all, they used to be on the same team. Plus they are teammates. Our hero is at home. Was he really on the same team with this man at school, but doesn't remember anything? If he has something to say, then let him speak. The guy began to answer that the summer training camp of the Great Sinao Empire is going to accept a large number of students this year, but many of them raised their demands. Our hero, because he refused to go to this camp, means that he also refused a huge reward. If the decision was made to admit a large number of students, why would they raise the entry requirements? The red-haired guy wrote that the three main cases made a fuss because some legendary genius did not show up at the camp. Our hero was surprised that this guy was initially accepted, but because of this trifle he could be expelled. He sat all alarmed and said that even among the centroid experts of the high stage, the level of a master, and are they really not trying to drive them out of here? But fortunately, the guy just saw our hero outside, calling him Plum, and adding that he is so strong, and the only one who can get him through this. Our hero stood up and said that the training camp was so soulless, and how could they even reject such an outstanding talent as a red-haired guy? He really wanted our hero to help him and transfer 5,000 gold coins to his anonymous account. Our hero's eyes lit up, and he said that it was a translation, or not. After that, they began to hug each other, and our hero said that he was not Plum, but could help him. Nectars later they passed by White Central Hospital. Our hero thought that that guy has a lot of bad habits that plague the nobles of Sinao. But he likes to show off and forget that the technique of wielding weapons was originally created to destroy the enemy. But now our hero doesn't have to worry that much, so he decided to get ready to celebrate since he was discharged from the hospital today. Suddenly, a very modern car, which was the dream of all men, drove past him. As it turned out, the girl herself was sitting on it, along with her bodyguard and lady. They asked our hero's Lisa to come to them. Our hero looked at this with joyful eyes, and because he could ride in the car of his dreams today. The lady noticed that it seemed that our hero's new body had recovered quite quickly, and offered to go and work. While their car was racing across the sky, I thought why he should work immediately after being discharged from the hospital. After some time, the guy asked if they saw the group, where they weren't heading. The girl replied that they were heading to the red light district in the north, and asked if our hero was scared. He replied that I heard that in the last few days the red light district was about honestly 3 times. I saw that there was nothing to be afraid of here. After some time, they already arrived at this block. He looked at the nightclub and wondered if it was really that big. One of the workers at the entrance asked what the security team was doing here, since people were not welcome here. At this point the lady nudged him with her foot and said she needed to talk to their manager. The girl said that she had never been to this place before. The lady who walked in front said that they need to go ahead and let everyone follow her. Warrior, she told the visitors not to waste time talking and let them come to their manager. She also added that my patience was running out and she would wait for him inside. Our hero and girl sat and thought about why this large-scale operation was needed. As it turns out, dogs may have been involved in the attack on the security post. The lady said that the destruction of the dog people depends on whether they hand over these people. Suddenly there was a creaking of doors in the room. As it turned out, the manager came and asked what was the matter, and why people could not contact him first. The girl just threw something in response, and told the manager to take a look for himself. The hologram showed a wolf handing a chest to one of the people. The bodyguard noticed that this was the same black wolf in the chest. There was the logo of the flesh factory. In the box there were bombs made of flesh. The manager replied that it was burn, and asked if the flesh bombs really came from there. He shouted to his assistant to bring Burn here quickly, because he needed him alive. I didn't say what she was asking this guy to do. If it has nothing to do with the manager, she will stop investigating him. The old man replied that he would take responsibility for what had happened, and pay satisfactory compensation to the guard post. Meanwhile, some wolf with a weapon in his hands began to shout that they were all dogs who licked people's shoes, and were trying to catch him. He told everyone to come to him quickly, if they wanted to be destroyed. He started shooting at the regular visitors of this nightclub. His entire team, which was in the bar and nightclub, also began to attack people. Lean told everyone to wear gas masks, because they are chemical, public flesh. In the meantime, she will detain all the suspected people. After this, the girl flew into the air and asked if God was really asking for death. A squad of police on the street shouted so that people would not panic and sue them. One of them began to call our hero to come to them. But at that moment his forehead was engulfed in heat, and he did not understand what was happening. Suddenly, behind me, I saw one of the police officers stop a man and ask him for identification. Our hero realized that this man was a blood elf. The blood elf stood in his sinister stance and began to prepare for battle. Our hero began to call everyone and shouted that there was danger here. After this, the blood elf began to scream very loudly. All the people started plugging your ears and asking for help. Our hero realized that they have these innate abilities. Suddenly, the blood elf began to attack one of the policemen. Our hero, looking at this, I realized that it was Brother Juan. At this moment he began to run to help him from the attack of the blood elf. Fortunately, he managed to do this and was able to parry his strong blow. The blood elf stood and said that he would suck all the blood of our hero to the last drop. He turned into a spider and started attacking the guy. Our hero shouted that his partner should not just stand there and help him. Let him pull out his gun and shoot. But when he turned around, he saw that his partner was already lying on the ground. At this moment I realized that he would have to use the dagger that splits the silence. Suddenly he saw a lady arrive to his aid. He realized that now he was saved, and just had to hold out a little longer. The lady kicked the club of the bloody Russian Federation with great speed. After that, she told our hero and partner to take this elf and get him out of here. But in the meantime they lay aside and wondered why this elevator was so strong. Moreover, they did not receive many injuries. Our hero thinks that he will go to the hospital the same day I was discharged. But suddenly I saw something. As it turned out, his friend was lying in a very uncomfortable and strange position. But he cannot move towards all this, because he was very traumatized by the blood elf. Suddenly, the girl and her bodyguard ran up to them and asked if they were okay. Our hero stood up and said that it seemed his right arm was broken. The lady told the nightclub's security to let everyone else take care of the wounded. Our hero added that after he received this blow, his strength suddenly burst out, and he is now at the 5th stage. The girl suggested that her bodyguard should leave, because this guy was hopeless. Suddenly they saw people loading some things from the dress factory into a truck. After some time, the guys walked behind and the girl said that she wanted to teach our hero the perfect technique of the reflecting blade. Our hero agreed, and said that regarding the payment, this was all included in the payment for the separation. After some time, the lady came and said that this wolf confessed, and today, she is treating everyone to dinner, so let everyone order what they want. After which our hero asked why people were looking at him so intently. The girl said that he was a beginner and asked if Somoya really had no self-awareness. The guy was unhappy that only he was forced to go, since he was not the only newcomer here. I added that in addition, all the guard post employees would take turns going on vacation, on the New York Inland Sea. He also added that this leave will not be counted as their absence, and they can take their family with them. Everyone began to rejoice that now they had an extra weekend, and could go to the island by the sea. A little later, in the office of the head of the security post, the guys asked why the people brought them here. She said that she plans to form an investigative unit that will include the guys. As for what they would investigate, they should have known that already, because she took them with her. The girl brought cappuccino for the lady, and said that she was good at following her orders. The lady began to tell that the blood elf they caught was now dead. Now people are planning to use the dress factory case to distract others and deal with the case. Every time I think that the lady is planning to get to the bottom of an unsolved case. If the girl and her bodyguard cannot take part in the investigation, it will bring them great benefit in the future. However, the guy thought that it might be too dangerous and why she needed to drag him along with her. Liji added that she does not have high hopes, because previous investigations have not yielded any results. After some time, they walked through the archive of the security post, or did not say that the reason why the Black Wolf sent a group of cutthroats was to blow up the security post. The girl added that this was the reason for the things inside this room. Vadya inside, she added that the authorities are very happy that they managed to solve an important case about the weapons of the dress factory, so that now they were able to form investigative units. The lady added that she was sure that the guys had heard about this tragedy, but the exact details were kept in the strictest confidence. Our hero didn't like the fact that everything was so serious, and he said that he didn't want to know if he could be part of this unit. After which the girl threw the documents into his hand, and asked if he wanted to leave after reviewing them, and told him to think carefully. The guy stood with documents in his hands, and tears on his cheeks, telling the group leader not to do this. She added that these documents are a summary of the case. She wants to see if the guys can find any clues here. Our hero asked why he had to go through all this alone. The girl replied that this case concerns an important symbol of the Mu family, and they have known all the details for a long time. Our first began to look at documents to find out what kind of confidential information, and such a severe punishment. Suddenly he was very surprised by what he saw. I didn't ask. Now our hero understands why this is top secret. This is that it can only contain a formula for the first steps of the Centroid Force. The lady added that there are recording cameras installed in this room, and when the guy leaves, let him delete everything. After which the guy made a speech asking if he could ask the lady something. The girl was a little surprised and asked what our hero wants. He replied that he wanted to make a cup of tea and drink it while he read the documents. Nectars later, events took place in the main building of the screen post. Our hero was already very sleepy from reading all these documents. All this was noticed by a girl who was passing by and saw how our hero was already falling asleep. Suddenly, she placed some strange bag right in front of his eyes. The girl said that the guy relaxes and dozes all the time, so she will probably go and complain about him to the leader. The guy asked not to do this, because he had just finished with the archives, and hadn't even blinked an eyelid all night. Our hero said that he couldn't help but think that the first world of White Arrow Harbor, Wellington, there was a blood phone. While having a bite, the guy added that this bastard has done a lot of bad things in the world. The girl also took a taste of the delicacy, and said that many symbolic seals of the nobility of the Singha Empire were also stolen, including from her family. After that, she presented her view and asked if our hero had finished reading the documents, and what he thought. The guy asked the girl to just leave him alone, because he wants to eat. After that, the girl said that her family lost the seal that was happening on the street. Therefore, she and her family want to find her as soon as possible. She added that if our hero takes part in this, then the family can allow them something. Hearing this, our hero was a little surprised, and asked what exactly the family could allow. After that, the girl with an angry look said that it was nothing. Our hero asked if that man from Wellington shouldn't be very handsome, and why his statue looked like a terrible guy. Approaching them, the bodyguard heard the girl say that this was all gossip after all, his article would not have been done so easily. The bodyguard intervened and related the story, after which both kingdoms gave orders never to mention Wellington's name again. Our Sin realized that something so serious had happened, and this idiot was too dangerous. Palmyra thought about stopping this matter. The bodyguard said to make the documents clear, that Wellington could create blood receivers that could live normally, and they could not ignore who they were. The guy wondered if the people who attacked the security post could really use the method of creating blood receivers that Wellington invented. Meanwhile, the residential area of White Arrow Harbor. Some daughter's dad told her not to rush to eat, because the school bus would arrive in half an hour, and she might choke if she was in a hurry. Suddenly the man saw the time on the clock, and was very surprised. The spoon fell out of his hands, and he began to look closely at the time. The girl could not understand what happened to her mom and dad, and why they froze in place. After some time at school, the bus pulled up to the house. Mom asked me to tell her that the little girl had passed out, and they would take her there later. The girl's dad said that he was sorry because the child hadn't woken up yet, and he would take her to school later. The blood elf realized that these were hidden large successors that were created by the Wellington method. The girls said, if he gave the method in first place, then the blood elves have been around for a long time, and you say the Eastern continent, and I need to stay in Havana White Arrows. After which she took the little girl in her arms, and began to examine her. Well, after a moment, she introduced her mouth to the neck, and began to do a bad thing. The man said that she should stop, if she drinks again, then this boy will become the main successor. But the girl replied that she was not as stupid as those stupid countries before her. After all, she wants to get out of this as quickly as possible. After this, the man asked why exactly the girl chooses people to make their crowns successors. She replied that it doesn't even need to be tasty if it looks unsightly, and asked if his appetite had decreased much. The men saw that they needed to get back to business, and added that the woman needed to increase the price for the deal. The girl asked if the professor was really taking advantage of this situation, and raising the price by 50%. Then I noticed that their organization always keeps its word, and the price is excellent, a 50% saying that they'd take everything and get you back. The girl apologized and added that she did not try to hide it, but the original price was already sufficient. Therefore, it would be unwise to increase by another 50%. After this, Professor Yi asked the question, where now are the things that were on the airship that was shot down a month ago? The girl replied that it was not them. She added that the imperial family of the empire's money, there was an internal conflict. Therefore it was their doing. Also, the girl thought that I was curious about what kind of things were on the air patrol ship, since they interested the professor so much. Well, the professor replied that a couple of things cannot be purchased, even if the girl does not want it. The girl said that a brilliant mechanic, he is much more dangerous than any expert. If it weren't for him, she would never have made this deal with the strange guy. But the girl added that in the morning, since the deal had been concluded by the joint factory, they could begin to implement our plans. Meanwhile, our hero was riding in a flying car with the guys. The guy thought that as soon as they left, a burning pain pierced his head. Besides, this has never happened before. Even when the wounded posts were attacked, he did not panic. Also, Click marked this place with a red circle, and it is better to avoid it in the future. Suddenly the clock received some kind of notification. After which our hero said that we should rest today, and suggested that we shouldn't think about too many things today. Suddenly, the girls also received some kind of notification on their watch. She said that sad news had come again from Single. Offensive exams in the Empire's training camp. A famous fanatic showed 5 explosive multi-shots in a train. The bodyguard thought that the achieved level of use for the explosive washed shot The Jin family raised such wonderful Dina. Our hero looked at the bodyguards with a sport on his face and thought that he was very striking. After which our hero decided to watch a hologram in which the previous guy thanked our hero for helping the pancake training camp. After which the red-haired guy said that they should look at the attachments. After which our hero was very surprised when he saw that his family offered him the right to use a different training method. After all this, the guy realized that he was now rich. Our hero realized that the 100 red-haired guy was reselling his training system, and it was even better. The girl asked at what level his strength could be. Well, our hero wondered how a person of all abilities could evaluate a legendary genius. He added that everything was already torn at the 9th stage, the center of power, and became an expert already in the 2nd year. The bodyguard added that no matter what, after he overcomes the 9th article of strength, he will find the train and fight it again. But the lady interrupted him and said that his wishes might never come true, because he might already die. She also added that this is just an assumption, and it is mostly supported by facts. Therefore, there is no need to spread this news. As for why she believes this, the Empire's training camp and no one has heard from him either. Besides, he could have been an insignificant killer from another empire, and no one wants to know what happened to the professor. The girl added that not only did the professor despair and come to the local factory, he also became the leader among the third of her group. Ours. Was the professor one of those who joined the local factory? He doesn't know the exact details, but it seems to him that he's been hiding for 3 days. Some time later, the girl was playing volleyball on the beach, and they decided to let the boys sleep and play with themselves. Our hero told the bodyguard to finish training, and what happened to him, but he must finish everything. Our hero agreed with his words, and said that then leave him here. Suddenly the guy again received a message on his watch. Even the hair guy said that he received high praise in the training camp, and offered to look at his equipment. As it turned out, he came to the test in one go, and the instructors at this camp were stunned. Our hero said that he is so cool and gorgeous, so he will have a wonderful future, and he wished them good luck. After that, the red-haired guy asked where our hero was, and why he had such a hot beauty. The girl looked at all this with misunderstanding and heard our hero's best friend talking over her. After that, the guy decided to hang up and said that he would continue the conversation no later. Now there was a very cool atmosphere around him and beauties who invited him to play volleyball. Because this is what the most ideal vacation should look like. After that, she took him by the arm and said that our hero had already played enough, and it was time for him to get to work. He was very surprised why they should work if they were on vacation like that. Yes, does our hero really think that she brought him just to rest? As it turned out, Wellington used to live here, and the guys need to inspect his house. Arriving at this house, our heroes wondered why they could not find the lost treasures before. The lady replied that the guy underestimates the abilities of Wellington and the special blood corpuscles to reduce and hide. In addition, in his diary he mentioned that the harbor of White Arrows is the most obvious. But first you need to look. Already being in the house, the lady told our hero to simply examine this place, because it had been examined many times, but no one had found any evidence. The guy replied that he didn't think there was anything like that in this place. He added that the owner is excellent and knows how to enjoy life. After that, he looked at the wall and wondered if these flowers were really made of gold. Suddenly he noticed that something was wrong with the petals of the flower. Why fresh blood, so that the objects used by them will be colored with energy. He picked up the petal and thought that this thing was very thin, and wondered if it also glowed in the dark. After that, he began to look through this petal at the lady's chest. She began to scold the guy, saying, didn't he have time to see enough on the beach? After that, he handed over the petal and said that she could look for herself. He pointed his finger down the city and told her to look there. The lady saw a great golden light from within the city. It contained all the women who were Wellington's favorites. The lady turned around and screamed and asked how our hero found it. He replied that he became curious and decided to check if this thing was transparent.